Yeah, so welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining the Town Hall and e-commerce workshop this evening or afternoon or morning for you. Yeah, I can't believe it's already December, and I know there's a lot of stuff that's been done for the year. So I think this is a nice workshop just to finish off the year with. E-commerce is a major thing that majority of our clients are trying to sign deals for. So tonight we're just going to come on. Yeah, so as we mentioned, the session is going to be split into two parts. The first part is going to be our typical kind of town hall agenda. So we're going to be looking at Studio version 2, like the official release. So Luke's going to just show you that and also just show you a little bit into like how different user roles work alongside giving access to different parts of version 2. We're also going to look at he's going to show some general design improvement that's been made to Siteglide recently, if you haven't noticed. Also just discuss some previous dates for support or how we're going to manage things over the holidays, just to ensure that you are supported if there are some really key things that need to be looked at. We will open it to the floor for general questions. And then after that, Luke and Matt will run the e-commerce workshop. So from that side, we're going to deep dive into all things e-commerce, hear challenges and ideas for improvement. So anything from your side that you're hearing from clients and how maybe you can, any sort of things that can improve the platform or what you're seeing is coming up from requests from your clients. Also just looking at what key features are missing. So if any certain features that you've needed or required, also just including any ones on the roadmap. And then they'll also just Luke will just go through kind of what are the priorities on that and a bit of a roundup after. Okay. But yeah, I'm just going to hand over to Luke and he'll take for the first part.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hope you're well. We will start off by running through the changes to the Siteglide UI in Portal. You might have noticed those changes if you've been in today or yesterday. No real UX or functionality changes in there, just visual changes for now. Just trying to free up some real estate and make it look a little bit better in key places. One of the main reasons was for the studio updates, so that you can get a bit more space for editing and designing. So I'll share my screen and we'll jump into that quickly. Right. Here we go. Hopefully you can see my screen okay, and I can switch between the two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the portal and admin design updates quickly, and then show them within Studio as well, so you can see the difference. And alongside that, I'm going to show how user roles sort of affect Studio and how you can lock down certain features for customers if you want to. So at the moment, I'm logged in as an agency user in one of our test accounts. And if I just go to a user, for example, sort of just looking around the UI first, sorry. We've got this, got the left-hand side menu that opens and closes. I don't know how much people will use that, but I always tended to have that open, and I now have it closed. We've just neatened it up a little bit and just given you a lot more space. So totally up to you which way you want to have it, and you can always change it, but it'll remember how you've got it set. Nothing else has changed really here, just the font updated to our font finally, long time coming. One big one is we've moved the breadcrumbs, the sort of where you are, up into the top area, because that was just taking up a whole load of vertical real estate. And then, yeah, lots of padding changes just to make the padding a little bit tighter and give you more space. We maybe have gone a little bit far with that, so any feedback on where we could do with a bit more padding. There are a couple of things that we've noticed as bugs that we're fixing in terms of a bit of bottom padding missing in some places, so they'll all get cleaned up in the next, very soon. But yeah, you'll kind of see it as we go through, but I'll just go into a client user. So I'm logged in as an agency user. I'm now going to one of the clients, so you can invite a client to the manage a site or to one of your client accounts. And you'll see in there under roles, I've got them as client restricted. And then on the right-hand side, if you haven't used user roles much, then definitely recommend having a look. You've got full control, granular control of what they can do. And one of the sections is CMS pages, edit, studio. So all of the studio settings here, and by default for client restricted, they'll have studio turned on, but none of the other things. So things like being able to copy whole sections, insert new blocks, delete sections, move them around, and then manage things like typography, background, CSS classes, all of that kind of stuff is totally, you can sort of control them granularly in terms of what you'd like to add on. And to do that, you would actually go back to, you go to roles, and you could create a new role, and you could base it off client restricted, let's say. You can pick a role to base it from. That'll pre-select everything for you. And then you could say, right, I just want them to have typography, let's say. So you've got total control over that. What I'll quickly show is now Studio V2 from a full agency user perspective. So all the boxes ticked, and then a client restricted, and you can kind of guess everything in between. So if we just jump across the sites, I'm going to go into one of our sites. Actually, sorry, first thing to do is Studio V2 is turned off by default for all of your existing sites. So we just don't want to cause you any surprises or headaches or anything like that with clients. So at the moment, it would just under configuration for each site, it would be defaulted to version 1. If you create a new site, it will default to version 2. So hopefully they're giving you less work to do. So on new sites, just better to get people onto version 2, I think. And obviously just come into here for any of your existing sites and switch it to version 2. I'd recommend maybe making a copy of some sites first and having a play around, see how they work before turning it on for customers, and just getting a feel for it so that you can support any questions from customers first. There may be things that we will want to improve, or I'm sure there will be lots of plans to improve it later on for dynamic content, but just do let us know if there are any improvements to be made over the current feature set. So yeah, you turn that on, you click save, and then you'd be able to go to admin for that site. As normal, no changes here. Go into pages, and then if I just go into one of these pages, this is on our new Soft UI Bootstrap 5 template and design system. If you go into Studio, you'll now see that that's the new Studio UI. So the old one had the little blue button on the right and the big sort of white rich text editor. This is the new one with the structure on the left, and then style and properties and adding content on the right. So just clicking on one of these quickly, you'll see all the different things that you can do, including typography, background, all the things that we just saw in user roles. You can add new sections in if you want to. This is something I forgot to show actually in the morning session. So let's just grab one of these, drop that in. So you can put it in anywhere, but you probably want to put it in as a whole new section, and you'll see it'll appear here. And then if you want to, you can actually, sorry, it would have been one of these ones. If you want to, you can then drag that down so it appears here. And then you've got full control to edit those using the style and properties tags. One thing we've done is links. You can very easily just select one of these, select some text or select something, add a link to it, and you've got it hooked up to Siteglide pages, modules, and web apps. So being able to link that specifically to a page or a dynamic item. Yeah, so that's the full sort of agency level. That's all the features, and we'll be adding more. And then if I just switch across to here, and we go into, I'm logged in as a client user on client restricted, and if we just go into one of these, you'll see that you have the same kind of look and feel. You can see everything in the structure. That just helps give an idea for sort of where everything is and helps you select the various layers. So like if you wanted to edit something further behind, you can sort of click on the right element. But you'll notice that you don't have all of the settings. So even when you click in here, you don't have the ability to delete or copy. You just switch back. If you wanted to come up to here, you could copy that section or you could delete it. You wouldn't have that in the client version. You just have the ability to kind of go up the tree to the next div or element above. But yeah, still really this is aimed at clients being able to do sort of standard content editing, not building. So formatting, then things like being able to edit pictures. So if you double click, you get File Manager and you can manage all your pictures. images, and other things like title tags, that kind of stuff. We'll add more in there as we go and based on feedback. But have a play around with it if you haven't already. You've got different responsive views that you can look at. You've got undo, redo. You can show the grid if you want to, and more of a preview of the whole page. And then finally working in full screen if you want to do that. So you can just use those features. Yeah, I think those are the main things to show really. The phase 1 aim was to get it to be better than the old version. Phase 2 and onwards will be seeing where we can take it in terms of dynamic content. As an example, things like being able to manage list view layouts, perhaps. I've just got a Figma design here that we showed last time, the ability to sort of control your dynamic data output, so your sort of liquid include, and then manage fields and tags and stuff. So saying where you want your tags to go. We really want to get to the point where you can build out a site visually. But other things, somebody mentioned this morning, the ability to actually edit item, so web app item from within Studio. Again, that's something we'd love to be able to do, and add it to other sections of the product as well. That was a pretty quick tour. I wanted to be fairly quick because obviously we're doing workshopping on e-commerce, so I just wanted to fly through that. But does anybody have any questions specifically on Studio, the release, the UI updates, anything like that?
Question, yeah. So if I enable this for a client, you're recommending obviously a copy to back it up before I enable it, 'cause you can't really go back, right?
Because it's so new, and because every website can be so different, and we don't know what everybody's built. We've kind of mainly built it and tested it for the soft UI theme, the Flowbyte theme, and then a few others, a few other sites we've tested on. Because it's so new, there's so much you can do. It probably is worth just at least playing around with it, making sure you're happy with it before just turning it on blindly for customers. Having said that, there shouldn't really be anything that needs to be checked, but it is worth doing. Yes, so I would make a copy of the site, and I'd just maybe make a copy of a page if not, and have a play around with it.
Right. So so under copies of the site, I'd copy it to like a new staging area or an existing site or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe start on a staging site anyway. What you could do is go to Marketplace and just copy one of our templates or copy one of yours. Or you could simply, if you don't feel you need to do that, you could just copy a page. But the only problem with that is you'd have to turn V2 on for the whole site and for every user. So yeah, to make sure the clients can't see it, you'd need to.
Client has a Bootstrap site. I think it was built on Bootstrap.
You should be fine, but worth testing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll test it. And then the other stupid question. How do you get the little icon when you shrink it down, you know? Because how on the top left there? Yeah.
That wasn't a dumb question. I want to know that too.
You want to know that?
And
question?
I want to know how you leave it out instead of it defaulting to collapsing.
Yeah. I see how you can leave it out, but what I like is you have two different logos, so it's like a responsive view.
This one.
Yes.
Do you mean when you've got your own agency logo in there?
Yeah, because my agency logo, when it's compressed, is like this little tiny thing, and I just want to do my little fish.
Yeah, sorry. Nick from Website Success mentioned that in this morning's session, and yeah, just unfortunately that's a bug or something we need to look at and fix. Okay. So I'll double check. Let's see actually whether you get to upload a Square logo into Portal. If not, that's all that we need to do.
Okay.
Sorry.
Because it looks like it's picking based on when it collapses. So
yeah, there should be a Square logo basically. So under your branding.
Okay. I'll dig it out.
I'll double check, but
maybe it wasn't a stupid question, but
no, definitely not. We'll make sure that works.
Details like that I like.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
Where is the option, Luke, to leave it expanded by default?
It should just remember it. Is it not doing? It should.
Every time I navigate to a different page, it's always collapsing it.
That's remembering it for me.
I mean, is there
We'll
a
have a look
setting
at
for
that. No, it
Or
should
it's
be
supposed
automatic.
to be automatic.
Yeah, I did see a fix or a request from Matt earlier, mentioning that he'd fixed that. So maybe can you just do a hard refresh if anybody has that issue and double check? But it should be fine. Should be doing it. It's meant to at least, and we'll double check.
So just whenever you expand it, it's supposed to automatically stay expanded.
To be honest, it should have been there the whole time, not just with this UI change. It should be however you have it, it stays like that until you change it, is how it should work.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm pretty sure it is doing
it seems
for
to
me.
be working now. Yeah, it seems to be working now. But
Yeah, I think
I would too like to know how to get the just the small icon in there when it is collapsed instead
Yeah,
of my whole instead of shrinking my whole logo. Yeah.
I can't test it at the moment logged in as this user, but if we haven't asked you for a square logo, that's something we might need to do, and you might need to update your agency settings in Portal. But we'll double check that one and confirm probably in Discord once it's ready.
Yeah, I don't see an option for square logo in the profiles.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what we'll need to do, because it's not going to be realistic to try and make the long one work, I don't think. If you notice things like little like space padding issues at the bottom, padding bottom, we're going to fix that as well. It's just something that didn't quite get done for release. We wanted to get this out before the town hall so that everyone's, we can show it and discuss it with you. But little things like that, there'll be padding at the bottom of every box, and just generally at the bottom of every kind of area. You notice it probably most on dashboard that it's needed there. But we'll get that added in ASAP. Colin mentioned in the chat that oh, Matt, maybe you've answered that, but yeah, adding style tags, they get lost when you return to the code tab. There are one or two slightly tricky things to solve on our side, and just something to be aware of. If you, for example, if you resize an image, there's nothing for it to know when you've finished doing that. So you just have to make sure you click off. If I now move, if I save that as is, it wouldn't be able to save it and remember it. You need to click off for it to work, or go to the code view or something. So just little tiny things like that. We're obviously going to try and overcome that, but for now, you just need to click off. The thing that you've mentioned, Helen, it might be something similar to that, where it needed to set before you see it happen. But I know Matt's tried to answer that one. And then just quickly in chat, where are we? Apologies. Let me just grab my chat window. We have, am I understanding that simply by pointing to V2, the site will update entirely to V2? Yes, Julia. So if you set it to use Studio V2, it's going to use it for that site, no matter who logs in. So that's why we're sort of saying maybe take a copy of the site if you want to just be able to test it and know that your client won't see anything. If they're not in there that often, then you can probably play around with it and turn it back off again. But yeah, making it V2 will be for everybody. Good. Any other questions related to Studio or the UX changes? Okay. Yeah, as I say, we'll keep improving it. Actually, I think somebody. Oh no. And I'll try and do a sort of video updates on all of these changes just to make sure it's clear, and we'll do some docs as well to improve, to update based on this, and yeah, give you an idea of what's coming in the future as well in terms of dynamic content. We really want to make it as powerful as possible, and that will really we'll do a better job if we get feedback from you guys and input on what you'd like to see. So do let us know. I mean, one good example, I'll just show that for now to give you an idea of what to give us feedback on, is the button to insert sections is over on the right here. And if you're inserting whole sections, it's quite fiddly. You might have noticed that, especially when you've got a big section, it's hard to know where to put it. Let me try and do this as an example. You can't really get down to wherever that would be, and you have to play around until the green line is where it is in the right place. What we're going to do is move adding sections, so new blocks, over to the left-hand side in structure. There'll be a button down here, and you would actually be adding it to the structure list at the bottom. You'd be adding a new section in, and then you can very easily move sections around. And it's a lot more obvious how to manage sections in the structure area. We would keep the right-hand side for kind of component level control. So this is more UX decisions, but if you wanted to put something within a section, that's where, if I just go back up here, this would be more relevant, where you'd be able to say, well, I just want to put a new text block into this section here and put an image in there as well. Let's just do that. So it's right-hand side being component level, left-hand side being layouts and structure. Does that kind of make sense as a sensible way to do things?
10-4.
Cool. We're also trying to think ahead in terms of user roles as well, like group stuff together. So you're probably going to either want your customer only doing editing, or certain types of building, which might be component level, or only just being able to pull in blocks. So we'll kind of separate all three. So you might have people building out landing pages, but you don't really want them messing around with the actual section itself. So you'll have kind of control over what people can do. Hopefully that makes sense. Good. Well, I think I'll leave it there. We spent about this sort of amount of time earlier, and we still had quite a lot of e-commerce discussions. So just quickly moving on, Christmas and holidays coming up. Time has absolutely flown by. Just wanted to let you know, normally we sort of say there's going to be a period where it's sort of critical support only. This year we've got sort of a good amount of cover across different people to offer different times. So you should find that other than the actual core holidays, we're pretty available, and we're always checking, and we'll always try and get back to you on any kind of issue as normal. But obviously on those core holidays, we'll be sort of keeping an eye out for critical issues only. As I mentioned earlier in the other sessions, we've never really had an issue, never really had anything too crazy or anything over the holiday period, and I think most people mentioned that they hadn't either. So normally okay, but yeah, just shout if you need us and we'll do our best. Any questions on that at all? Good. So yeah, before we jump into e-commerce, just wanted to sort of, I know people, if you have to head off, not a problem. We might find we get chatting about all sorts of granular detail in e-commerce, and it's not a problem if you need to head off. But before then, just wanted to open the floor up to everybody, and also for people who are watching, and if you do head off, hope you have a really good break for Christmas and holidays, and come back in the new year refreshed and ready to do more. So yeah, any other questions, anything people wanted to discuss in the meantime other than e-commerce?
Other than e-commerce?
Yeah. Before we dive into e-commerce.
Well, I mean, is this e-commerce, it's like you're gonna like walk through, it's a workshop where you talk about, because I've got a client on using e-commerce but not using the e-commerce modules. It's
literally anything e-commerce related, so it doesn't have to be using the module.
I want to participate, so I can learn, be smarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a work. We've not done one of these really before. We've decided to add it onto the town hall this time. In future, we might make it a separate event, but just for sort of time, we've added it on, see how it goes and see what format people like. But it's really just a chance. We've got Matt here who can help try and tackle any challenges. We can also quickly demo what we've been up to. We've made some e-commerce improvements in terms of like layouts and functionality, And we've also got a list of things that we went through with Website Success about a week ago in terms of their e-commerce requirements. They've been doing quite a bit recently, and they've hit a few things that be really valuable. So if people don't have a huge long list, we've got plenty to kind of kick things
One
off
other
with.
question,
But yeah,
if I may, unrelated, any updates on the AI search?
Good question. We've been focusing a little bit on Studio and some of this e-commerce stuff. I'll have to double check. Matt, I think it's been very much on your radar. I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but anything to mention there?
So Platform S have released something, and they've given us a GitHub repo I can explore, but it's very much a case of reverse engineering, take it apart and see what we've built for you, and then figure out what we can build for Siteglide from there. So we haven't quite got around to it. We're hoping that they're going to provide us with an explanation of what they've built to save us having to pick it apart ourselves. But it looks like, yeah, but I mean, yeah, if anyone's using GraphQL, you can have a play with the documents, query yourself and see what it does. I think one thing I was able to find out that they've built is that may feed into Siteglide in the future is this ability to sort of, for different web apps, to maybe set certain properties as being different kinds of searchable, so that the search index sort of learns to index them differently. But that's what I really want to find out more about, because I don't quite know what the different options are yet. So sorry, that's a little bit vague, but it's something we're kind of we'll take advantage of as soon as it becomes possible.
I think I showed a demo of that last time, Matt. I think this might be what you're referring to in terms of whether it's like fuzzy, exact,
right? But we already
that kind of thing.
Oh, but we already have that. So I'm just not clear on what in the demo is actually new.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Michael, I'm going to push them again on a bit of documentation. It would massively help us and save a lot of time to have some docs. So we've held off a little bit, but yeah, very keen to explore it, and I'll try and get you an update. Everybody an update on that.
It's no big
very
rush.
soon.
I mean, I'd rather have you, like you said, you put the work in the studio and it looks good. So
cool.
Yeah.
If I had to guess from the demo,
it's just like a minor tweak that I got a client asking, and it's no biggie, but just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, sure. Would like to get onto it.
to guess in the demo, what might be new is the sort order, because currently we can sort of we can do a fuzzy search, but when the results come back, we need to sort them by something like, you know, the alphabetical order of the name. Whereas if we can just have the results appear in the relevancy order, that is actually very powerful compared to what we have now. So that might be what that demo is showing.
We're obviously looking at how that ties into the AI side of things as well. They've been doing both alongside each other. So yeah, we'll do some, well, I'll have a chat with them, then we'll try and do some playing around, and we'll give you a better update very soon, I would have thought. Cool. Okay, yeah, I think let's jump into e-commerce then. But do shout if anybody wants to jump in with anything else. I think what might be best is if you are ready, Matt, just to do a very quick demo of what you showed earlier, where we are with the template side of things, and then we'll either let you guys reel off questions or things you want to talk about, or we can run through the list that we've already kind of been working on with others and in the session this morning. So over to you, Matt.
You're muted, Matt.
Then I was trying to tell him.
Sorry, yeah, and you can see the right screen.
You can see check out our shop.
Great. Okay, perfect. So yes, we've been wanting to replace the old demo site for a long time. We needed to get e-commerce coming. onto it. We've got two themes now. We've got the Flowbyte theme and the SoftUI theme. We're kind of waiting for Flowbyte to release some e-commerce content. So we went for SoftUI first, and we will hopefully come with Flowbyte e-commerce content in the future. But yeah, we've built this new site template with about 95% done. Every layout you see should be also available in Site Builder as a layout on its own. So you wouldn't have to install the whole site to get some of these layouts. And the layouts on their own can be a really good starting point to start with the layout. All the liquid and JavaScript ready to go, and just put your own style in from your design. Might be a really quick way to set up an e-commerce site. So our objectives with it to make it better than our previous layouts were really around just a good user experience in terms of the functionality, packing in as much functionality as we could, but also around like performance. So when I come to the clothing page, it's automatically filtering by the clothing category. If I switch to, say, homeware, you'll see different products appearing. But when I start to use these filters on the left, you see that not the whole page doesn't refresh, but only this section. It uses our Live Updates API that's part of Site Builder and leveraged by lots of our layouts now. And that just creates a much faster experience. Same for search, same for sorting by price, filtering by price. If I go into the detail layout, here's another layout we've built. We're also showing attributes images here for the different attributes that are available for the shirt. If I switch attributes, there's a little bit of JavaScript which pops that image to the top. It's the main image, so people can instantly preview the attribute they're choosing. This isn't quite exactly what most sites do. They would normally completely move that image. But when we have more image fields available on the product, we'll be able to do a little bit more with it. So this is a halfway solution at the moment. If I add to cart, we've also added a new plugin to SoftUI, which is the Sweet Alert plugin, which just allows us to have a slightly nicer alert, and that's fully customizable with their API. Let's go to the cart. The cart is the bit that we most still need to work on, because we also want this to have live update as well. So we want it so that if you say can't remove a product from the cart or change the quantity, it just quickly refreshes the cart without having to refresh the whole page. And you can see that all the attributes here are very clearly, this is the same product but with different attributes very clearly marked on the cart. Get free to checkout. The checkout uses a nested cart layout inside it. So you'd install one layout from Site Builder and you'd get sort of a 2 for the price of one layout. If I fill this out, we get to the order confirmation page. And as mentioned in the morning session, you don't need to have a HCapture here, it's just default. I'll probably turn it off. Because I really struggle on the demo to pass the reCAPTCHA and not be a robot. Okay, good, passed. Phew. Brilliant. So we've got the order confirmation page. Again, we've got a cart summary, and I am still working on it to make the sort of fields from the form submission appear here as well. So they should be able to see there, confirm that the right shipping address was entered. If I'm actually logged in, so I can now click back to orders. And I can see the sort of list of the orders I've made in the past. And if I click the details button, I'll see that same confirmation page with the same cart summary. This is a different order. So this layout gets reused for both of those two things, for the detail of the order and also for the confirmation page. Yeah. We've also got sort of log in, log out forms like you would have seen on other demo sites. So yeah, that's the end of the quick demo. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see a little bit more of, or things you'd like to see in this demo to sort of demonstrate Siteglide features in a real working site that you can copy and start off from. Over to you. Let me know your questions.
What does the emails look like when
really good question. So at the moment, Site Builder doesn't have a particular way to create an email layout. So that's something we'll have to work on. I think for now, we'd provide sort of the liquid version of this page and leave you guys to use the email designer of your choice and sort of put the liquid into that. But in the future, we'd love to be able to do some kind of integration which provides email layouts. It's just, we know emails use such an old version of HTML. We can't just put soft UI into an email at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, we can try and have a plain text version of it available.
But I mean, is it like a workload? Like, for example, if you had a digital product and somebody purchased a digital product, you know, sending them a link to download the product, would that be handled through like a workflow or?
Yeah, I mean, lots of agencies have done that. There were a couple of ways of doing it with custom code. But yeah, you could store that file within the product itself because you can add a file custom field to the product. And then you can, in Liquid, you can either output like an anchor tag to just click and download the product, or you can do something a little bit more fancy with custom.
Yeah, I mean, because they probably do both, where they could download it directly from after they purchased it on the page with a confirmation page.
Yeah.
But people sometimes forget, and then when they get it in their email, they can, you know. But then, of course, it also has to verify that they made the purchase. So that would definitely have to be probably code.
Yeah, I mean, one way to do it if you're going to the site is to use the My Orders page and put it in the details. If I log out, that one's there because they have this unique ID, which you wouldn't be able to guess. But if I go to My Orders while I'm logged out, that's not going to show anything. So obviously you would use Liquid to hide the link when they're logged out. So that's one way of doing it. If you were to, if you wanted to like contact Site Gurus, we can even do something like make the file an email attachment to the confirmation email. There are different things you can do. Just have to decide what you want for your customers to be the best experience.
I think what we'll do by default, just to confirm, is have a basic email template for autoresponder and workflow that has the fields in it from the order. I think that's what you said earlier as well, Matt. Is that right?
Yes, to an extent. So at the moment, the way Site Builder was built was it's built based on what can have a layout in Siteglide. So technically, like an autoresponder isn't a layout in its own right. So we can't create a layout for it, but we could create a liquid tag that you could put in a workflow or an autoresponder.
But we could do it in a template, in a marketplace template.
Yes, we could. Yeah, there's a couple of things that we can do in, say, this site template, which we will do. So if you copy the site, you'll be able to have those already set up, and you could copy them to another site from that. Yeah.
Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
Well, what about B? Because you guys recommended BE a while back for visual design of HTML, but also inline. And I've done it with a couple of customers, and it works pretty good.
You can use whatever you like, really, for the email design and builder. We're probably more looking to help you with the Liquid and the Siteglide code side for now.
Yeah. But are you saying that there isn't a way to attach from once somebody makes a purchase that it would trigger like a workflow autoresponder saying, thanks for your purchase, here's what you purchased, without
Oh, I see. So the form, so the checkout form I shared is a Siteglide form. All checkout forms are. So when you submit it, it's like any Siteglide form. It has an autoresponder and a workflow attached to it already.
Okay.
And at the moment, you know, when you start with a form, it will be a plain text autoresponder workflow that just says thank you, and you can go in there and add fields to it. And you can go into B, get a design, and put that in, and then put the liquid inside the design. And that's still absolutely an option for you. We just haven't got like a pre-built thing that's going to be as pretty as the form confirmation itself. Yes.
Hopefully that's clear, but to sort of summarize, functionality wise, the whole process will be there in this template. Design wise, the email will probably keep very, very simple for now, and you guys can, you can go off to any kind of email designer to create your kind of HTML to wrap around it. But yeah, we'll try and, in the template in Marketplace, we'll try and make sure you've got a end-to-end example you can work with. It'll probably be we'll probably have like physical products and an example of some digital ones, I imagine, that we'll categorize. But then if it's very specific to say something like courses, we might end up doing a completely separate courses template so that you can see how that works. Matt, do you want to, I think you're sharing a screen. Yeah, so in the chat, I noticed, Julia, you asked about what about spreadsheet import, export of products, and importantly, their attributes. You should be able to do all of that already. Is there a specific thing you're struggling with or feature that's missing, would you say?
Yeah. I can never get the attributes to come up in a spreadsheet export or import. They just don't. I never
They're in a different file. I can't remember if they're in a different tab. I think it's normally a different tab that they're in. I'm trying to think who else.
Yeah, I'm still sharing, so I'll show.
Great.
So when you hover over the export button, you should see products and attributes. I'm guessing you've seen that and you've tried attributes, and it hasn't.
Yeah, it didn't work on the. Well, I only tried it once, to be quite honest.
Did it give you a success message in the top right? It might be a problem specific to that site.
I'll try it again. But so you can't get them. They come out as two separate spreadsheets then, and you can't update them together, right?
It is, yes, they are two separate spreadsheets. You can't export them natively as just one. And we did talk about this on the other call, like a couple of weeks ago. And we could have done it as one, but there are advantages to keeping them separate. And because if you look at I think it's Shopify we looked at, which does sort of merge them into one CSV, it becomes very complicated to read and very repetitive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to give you an example of one of the features that was requested by Website Success and discussed earlier, they want another spreadsheet, a third one, which is of the products and attribute combinations. So you can see a list of all the different combinations that you could have. And to give maximum flexibility, it does make sense and simplicity actually to have these all as separate spreadsheets. So while I appreciate it's different to VC and probably feels a bit disconnected, it is generally easier to manage those three things separately. Whether they could all be in the same file but in different tabs, I can't tell whether that would be an improvement, but maybe that's possible.
Yeah, in order to do that, you'd have to sort of provide a Excel file rather than a CSV file, because CSV can only be one sheet.
Yeah, that's why then.
So probably not. but obviously you can open them in a file together and make connections.
So if they export separately, they import separately as well, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, as Matt says, CSV can only handle one, so it's better that we follow the CSV format than try and specifically work for an Excel file.
Yeah, so it cannot database, in other words.
They are separate tables and databases effectively, so that you are seeing exactly how it is in the database pretty much, I think. And you sort of manage each table separately and import them. And then one of the features that I mentioned that would be saving you time is it would automatically create the combinations for you. But it is generally better to manage all the data. I think what Shopify did as an example is they kind of manipulate the tables and then give you a spreadsheet that doesn't match. And that's actually a lot harder to work with. And it'll create kind of limitations because then you have to kind of undo the manipulations. So it's generally better to work with the kind of raw data.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a hard one to explain.
Yeah. No, I get it. I've worked with databases, so I just was a little bit confused about that. This helps. Thanks.
Great.
No problem. If you have any trouble getting those files on any of your sites, do let us know and we'll check whether it's a site-specific issue.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. And there was another question from Helen, I think, in the chat, about is it possible to add to sites already created? Did we answer that, or is that a new question?
No, sorry, I did miss that, and we
That's
discussed
okay.
that earlier on, actually. Liz asked that question in the earlier session. Do you want to go through it?
That's why I couldn't remember if we'd answered it. It was earlier.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so yes, so I think as I mentioned, you could on a existing site, you could install the site builder module and the soft UI theme. If all of the layouts we showed will also be available in Site Builder to install into Code Editor individually. So you don't have to start from a demo site. You could install just the cart as the layout in Code Editor, and then in your page you can output it using Toolbox wherever you like. If you are using Bootstrap 5 already, great. It may even just already look right in your existing template. If you are using something like Flowbyte or a different framework completely, you could create as a short-term solution, you could create a soft UI template just for, say, the checkout to give the new checkout experience. So it's a different framework just for that page. I wouldn't normally recommend that, but if you wanted to get the functionality quickly, you could start by that, and then you could make consistency within your site later by making sure everything uses the same template and editing the classes to match your design system. Did you want to see like installing a layout just to get a refresher on that, or does that answer your question?
I think Helen will probably reply in the chat. So
yeah.
I'll keep an eye out. I think if you just go, if you've got Site Builder in the site, if time for a demo, excellent. Yes, just jump across to here.
Yeah, so all the screenshots will be wrong because I haven't taken the new screenshots yet, but I can tell you what things are. So this would be, say, the product list that we showed at the beginning with the live updates, product detail. So if you go to layouts, this will just install one into Code Editor on its own. If you want to put one on a page straight away, you can go to Page Builder. That's probably the best way to demo for now. Although actually I'll do it in layouts. We'll do both. So we'll start with Page Builder. So let's say I want a new product list page, call it products, and I'll put a dynamic layout, e-commerce, product list. As I said, the screenshot is wrong. You can change settings here. For example, the number of products per page. Let's say I just want 3 products per page. I need to add a pagination now. That's a good idea. Submit page. So this will add decoders and put it on a page. So I can view the new page here. Or if I go to CMS and create a new page. So it'll be under eCommerce, product list. And now this product 10 will be the one that I just created because it's named after the page I created and the first layout on the page. But I've also got the, I think shop 10 was the one you saw earlier. So they're all available in Toolbox. If I click this one now.
Just need to give it a name.
There's point. This would be our new page. Hopefully that's helpful. You'll see this is slightly different from the other list because by default, we're showing all of the categories. In the demo site, we demonstrate how you can set a setting within the layout to pick a category to be the top level. And then it will only start by showing things in that category. And it will only show categories that are children of that category. So that's one of the benefits of looking at the demo site is you can see how you can take the default layout as it is and customize it to work together with other layouts nicely and look at its position within the site. Because if you just install a layout on its own, it's not aware of the URL necessarily. It doesn't know your site structure, but you can start to set things where it knows links to other pages and other things like that, which we'll demonstrate on the demo site.
To clarify the sort of how it works from your question, Helen, basically you don't need to worry about conflicts really. As long as you have different page templates, you can kind of run things alongside each other. So you've got your site on your own page templates. If you install Soft UI and then you come to here, as Matt's doing, and create a new page template, you can basically run all of this completely separately from any other pages. So all you do is you create a template and then you would start creating pages and stuff based on that template, and it would work independently of the rest of your site. So that would allow you to then see how it works and then maybe start merging the two or different ways of going about it. But yeah, you can definitely test things alongside. So Matt's doing an example here of running both Flowbyte, which is Tailwind, alongside Bootstrap. And because they're defined by the page template, you can literally run the two and have no issues. So we don't have eCommerce yet for Flowbyte. If we did, we'd literally be able to show you a whole checkout process or eCommerce site for both Flowbyte and Soft UI on the same site and just run them separately.
So this
Hopefully
is
that makes
available in the demo site right now, these layouts?
This is available in Site Builder right now. Sorry,
not well. So when we're talking about page templates, being able to run both of them side by side, yes, that's available now. What's not available just yet is the new this new site template and the eCommerce layouts inside it. They're around 95% done, but just need a tiny bit more tweaking before they're ready. Does that answer?
Yeah. So like how we used to go and add a new site, so like demo site, so that we can see liquid and all of that kind of stuff. This is not available in the demo site just yet, is what you're saying?
Not just yet. This will replace the old demo site. So the old one is very outdated now. It runs off the very old studio design system that we had. So yeah, very soon we'll have a new demo site running off the new Bootstrap Soft UI that uses that has all of the functionality built in, so you can kind of see. Yeah, it's a great way to see how things are built and take ideas from.
Yeah, so the old demo site is not a site template, is that right, Luke? But if you, for most of the time, if you
Should be that one there.
it might just need to be. Oh, yes, it is. Right, yeah. So if you go into Marketplace in Portal and you put in the category of template, you'll see the Bootstrap 5 demo site alongside our newer site templates. And yes, the new one will sit at the end here and replace this one. Because the main reason we've kept the top left one is because it has e-commerce in it. And the new soft UI and flow by one stone.
It's a little confusing, but the old one will just be replaced by the new soft UI design system. So you'll have all of the functionality in that one demo site. And we'll do the same for Siteglide. Good.
Great. Helen's just said, watching back the video after Town Hall to look at the demo site, but I think we can probably do one better and just share the URL. I'll still be working on it, so it might break now and again, but you should be able to just have a little play around on there.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, so basically we've got a list of things that we talked about in the previous session in terms of features that would be needed that people have raised. I can run through those quickly, or I think what might be better, because anybody can sort of rewatch that. If any of you have any burning e-commerce issues, feature requests, ideas, projects, stories that you want to tell, over to you guys. And if you don't, then I can go through the list.
Let's see your list first, and then we'll ask questions.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so these mainly came up from a discussion with Website Success. As I said, they're doing quite a lot of e-commerce at the moment. They're winning people off various platforms, might be WooCommerce, Shopify, Wix, those kind of sites, platforms, which is obviously what we want to hear, and we want to facilitate that and support that. So it was just really, I think, to set the scene, trying to make sure that the core functionality is there out of the box. As I sort of worded it earlier, we always say that we want to make things possible and flexible, but we don't want that to be an excuse for things that should be there out of the box. And obviously we'll always do our best to release things as quickly as we can, and it relies on feedback from you guys on what to prioritize and what features are needed. So the main ones, I'll go through it a bit quicker, and if you want some of the detail, maybe watch the recording back, or obviously ask questions and we'll discuss. But the first one was more of a bug, to be honest, VAT calculations or tax calculations, bit of a rounding issue when you multiply things out. So currently, if you add VAT to an item and then you buy 10 of them, the rounding happens on the item, individual item, and then the rounding gets multiplied, which obviously creates an incorrect value. BC made this, struggled with this as well. They had like 4 decimal places to try and account for it. What we're going to do is give you an option to decide whether you want to round or add VAT, effectively add tax, at a unit level, a line item level, or a basket level. So there'll be different times for different customers when you want to, how you want to, and when you want to calculate your tax. So any questions on that? Any ideas on specifically calculating tax?
I think at the cart level makes total sense. Yeah.
We found that we basically need all three, because there are times when one project has to do it at a unit level, some at a line level, and some at the basket or cart. So yeah, we'll offer all three. I think that should cover everything. The only time, as we discussed earlier, that we believe, like the other option that I do recommend that people look at will be Stripe, well, that we're looking at, sorry, is Stripe Checkout. Now, I'll just explain this quickly. It was discussed earlier, but Stripe has 2 main ways of doing things. There's their own tool called Stripe Checkout, which means that you can just use their tool. So you go off to their site and the checkout can calculate tax for you. It can do all sorts of things. And with US based tax, as we know, it can be pretty complex. So you can just let them handle all of that. Until very recently, the downside is you're leaving your website or your client's website and going off to Stripe. Literally last week or 2 weeks ago, they released the ability to embed that into your own site, and you can do it very nicely, and it's very well integrated. So I think soon we will look at Stripe Checkout as maybe the simpler, cheaper, off-the-shelf Stripe way of handling things. And then the other way is the way we've got at the moment, which is Stripe Elements. So Stripe Elements is the sort of fully integrated into the site and product side of things. We're switching at the moment to their kind of better or more recent way of doing that. And that opens up things like Klarna, which we're working on at the moment, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and various other things. But as far as we know, it's not really going to help with like complex tax. So to cut a long story short there, we'll push Stripe Elements as far as we can in terms of getting all the features out of it, giving you extra tools like Klarna. But where you want to do very complex tax or access to things that are best left to Stripe, basically, let's leave the responsibility of doing those kind of things to the experts. And that's where Stripe Checkout will probably be better, or where you just want something really quick and simple and don't want to really do any more setup than Stripe offers. So we'll try and have those two options alongside each other. Any feedback on that plan idea, or any feedback specifically on the Stripe?
I didn't know that Elements does that, adds those additional features like Apple Pay, Google Pay, and things like that. I would say that for me, I was leaning towards Stripe Checkout because of those features. One-click checkout, for example, through Apple Pay. I mean, if you've ever used it, it's super simple. I mean, literally, you go to checkout, the Apple Pay button is right there. I click Apple Pay, and then I think it even wants one more click to confirm, and that's it. I don't have to fill out a long form entering my information and then address and blah, blah, blah. It's like it works, and it's just really effortless. And that's why I preferred Stripe Checkout, because of, it being kind of an easy one-click checkout like that. However, if Elements offers the same functionality but doesn't pass somebody off to a different website, I'm all about keeping the brand intact first, kind of thing. And if that's what Elements would offer, then I wouldn't need to spin up Stripe Checkout unless, like you said, I needed a quick, down and dirty, easy, cheap way to enable a checkout experience.
Yeah, that was exactly my thinking until about 2 weeks ago, and Stripe have complicated it, but improved it, where basically checkout will give you now, from most people's perspective, the same experience. You stay on the website, it looks good, you can style it, but you can leverage all of Stripe Checkout within your own page. The reason to use Stripe Elements will be more custom control and specific things. So we're going to need to offer both, I think, but all the benefits that you've just raised of Stripe Checkout, you'll now have without leaving the Siteglide environment, once we add checkout in. And then things like Elements, I don't think will have all of the features that Stripe offer. So Stripe Tax being one of the big ones, I think that is where checkout would be the most beneficial option. But to summarize, I think we're going to offer both. There's definite benefits of both, but checkout embedded is a really nice, simple, quick way of doing things with very few downsides. Good. Sorry, that was a bit of a complex one, but we've had to really research it and explore it, and I think that'll give everybody the maximum flexibility.
When is that going to be available in Siteglide?
Which one? Sorry, Glenn. Stripe
The
checkout.
Checkout, yeah.
We're doing elements first in terms of the Klarna feature, Apple Pay, Google Pay. Once we get all of these sort of out of the box things added to that, they're kind of, it makes sense to do those. Like we've already got Stripe elements. We might as well add in the extra modular components. Once that's done, we would be taking a look at Stripe checkout and trying to integrate that more easily. There will be upsides and downsides of both, so it makes sense that we finish elements first, I think, if that makes sense to you.
So when do you think elements will be finished?
Klarna is well in the works at the moment. Matt gave me an update on that earlier. So I would say very soon. I think it's, I'm going to say weeks away, not many, I would have thought. But that's, yeah, take it with a pinch of salt for now, I think. We'll provide a better update as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Any specific use case for you there, or just keen to use things like Klarna?
We haven't integrated a checkout at all, or e-commerce at all yet. I mean, we did in BC, but it's been a bit of a learning curve, Siteglide in some respects.
Sure.
So we are at the point where we could switch from Shopify to Siteglide for some sites potentially if the e-commerce is good enough.
That's exactly what this is about, and we want to make sure it is. So yeah, let us know if there's anything in particular that's needed. I think hopefully the benefit is that Shopify is fantastic at e-commerce, but that is kind of where it ends, I think. So the fact that you can then do all the things that Siteglide offers. So we want to make sure that the minimum requirements for e-commerce are there, and then hopefully some nice USPs on top that other platforms can't do. Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
No problem. Good. So that was that one. That was a big one to try and cover. Quickly, a few more off the back of that. Discount codes, being able to apply those to specific categories. So just being able to literally look at a list of discount codes, show the categories, and apply discount codes to them. So rather than having to do it all at well, product level, I guess. that was just one that was discussed. Any specific questions or issues with discount codes? Next up would probably be gift vouchers. That's one that was discussed a lot on sort of around BC migration, sort of BC end of life. Needed, but never that important, it seemed, and everybody seemed to agree earlier. We know we need it. We want to do it. So we're going to come up with fairly standard gift voucher functionality there. Again, hopefully one of those key things that means you can tick the box and say, yeah, we can migrate from another platform perhaps, or build directly onto Siteglide.
Yeah, and actually one of the reasons why some sites aren't with Siteglide is the gift voucher functionality, particularly in the beauty industries, and you know, people buying things as gifts. But I mean, beauty in particular, it's something that we had in BC, but not in Siteglide. Yeah,
exactly. Something we definitely want to do. It sounds like you might be able to maybe give some insight into that. Specifically, is it people being able to buy a gift voucher and then give it to a specific user, a bit like it was in BC, or is there anything worth doing on top of that, would you say?
Yeah, similar to BC, with the option of the gift voucher being sent directly to the person or being sent to the person that's buying it. Also a nice PDF gift voucher attached with the name and so on, and the service on there as well. I mean, of course, with that, it is all about the presentation and how it looks when someone's buying something, because they are often spending a lot of money on something. But when you kind of get a shitty email through, it doesn't really look expensive or good enough. So yeah, in terms of customization around how the particularly a PDF would be great. A physical voucher, if you like, that could be printed out or attached to an email would be really useful.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Generating PDFs can be quite hard. It's a feature that Platform OS has built in, and I think, Matt, maybe you might know more about this than I do.
Yeah.
Quite, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be really nice if we could sort of allow you to create like a PDF like wrapper and then pop like the liquid details in the middle as a kind of standard thing. The challenge I've had before is just kind of scaling everything, and yeah, I think it took me like 20 hours to do one PDF. So we'd want to make that more like reproducible, without having to like manually decide how many inches every element has to move. But that was a particularly complicated one. But yeah, the actual attaching it to an email is quite easy once you've generated it. It's just trying to get the styling right. The alternative is, of course, you could create it on like create the PDF with an actual design tool yourself, and our product would be so standardized that you'd be able to create, say, 3 of them for 3 different gift vouchers, and maybe we just have one place where we just insert the amount in to keep it quite standard. Don't know. Yeah, quite a lot to think about there. But yeah, definitely, if you send us an example from Shopify of a PDF, maybe we can actually have a look at that and think how we can replicate it.
Well, the interim option would be to generate a unique web page, which could be printed out.
Yeah.
Much easier. You're right. CSS in there, so it looks nice when it's printed out, and that would be a interim measure. But ideally, yeah, something physical that's attached to an email would make the most sense.
Yeah, that's actually how the PDF generator kind of works. It's just because it uses something. It's like a kind of API that actually loads up a Chrome browser, loads a web page, and then prints it into a PDF, and then returns you the PDF. So so it should be quite simple. It's just that in reality, I found that there was problems with just using normal CSS for that process.
Thank you.
It's nice that it all does run the same kind of way, though, because we can effectively, if you do have your layout right, then it can work for web page, PDF, and email effectively, and just use Liquid to output the data. So yeah, I'll add that to the list of things to look at with gift vouchers, because I agree, it's not just the functionality, it's the presentation and and how polished it is, I guess. Yeah. Okay, I guess on the back of that, another feature, but kind of lower priority, I think, because it's not necessarily required, is abandoned cart notifications. Very nice, but not necessarily required. Nick mentioned earlier that actually Stripe might help us out here with their new product, or with the link product that they have, because it might be possible sort of to tap into that. They obviously have a whole load of data and customer base of people using links, so it might be possible to help get be able to do abandoned cart notifications based on people who aren't logged in, because just for logged in users we can do that, but I imagine that's sort of less valuable, that you're trying to capture the people that you don't know. Yeah, just very quickly, a couple of things on attributes. I'll sort of go through them, and then we can jump into any questions. Multiple images on attributes. So Matt demoed his product detail view earlier, and he mentioned that he couldn't show the right images. He had to sort of just swap the order of them based on attributes. So we'll add a field for image array that lets you add multiple images to attributes, and also a field for description, letting you kind of name each one as well. So you can put some information next to them. And then finally, on that Shopify feature actually that Nick mentioned is attribute combinations, when I mentioned the CSV import export. So once you've got your products and once you've got your attributes, it would maybe with a click of a button, just in case you don't want it, it would create a list of all the product combinations. So t-shirts in color and size, it would make red, blue, red, medium t-shirt, blue, medium t-shirt, red, all those kind of things. So make all the different combinations automatically, and then you would maybe just need to add in things like SKUs and that kind of stuff. But just trying to speed up the process of data management. But another reason why that would be managed individually in CSV is you can then export those and work with them and import them back in very easily. Yeah, I think those are the main ones, really. I think the only other two were dimensions and weights for shipping. Again, this has been discussed a lot since the BC days, and I can't really remember why we didn't do it. I know we were keeping e-commerce as lean as we could, or the whole product as lean as we could, where you don't have fields that you don't need, but they do seem like pretty core fields that would help people do a lot, especially with how powerful Liquid is. You could then do some very sort of complex things with it. So adding those in, they're already on the roadmap, and the ability to add custom fields for shipping options as well would kind of give more functionality there. I think DJ, you might have some thoughts on this, but any specific thoughts from anybody on shipping dimensions, weights, those kind of things?
Well, I just had one, client that had a very, very specific and complex kind of request. I think Matt would say it was very complex, but I think what he came up with is, very good. And I would think that if what he came up with could be baked into the Siteglide experience as an option when people are spinning up e-commerce sites, I think it would be a great thing to have, for sure, just for the flexibility, kind of thing. I mean, let me put it this way. Other e-commerce clients, I've kind of tried to shift towards making shipping free and or baking including the price of shipping into the product itself so that they could say that it's free. So just pad the price of the product a little bit to offset the cost of shipping, just to make it easier to spin up a site for them so that we can avoid having to deal with, shipping calculations. But I think the difference is, you're either going to have a kind of sort of dumb system like that and just make provision for shipping yourself, or you're going to need the complexity of linking to a live rate server, which is where the complexity comes from, right? Because if you're doing a live rate server, you're literally comparing the cart and the shipping origination point to the destination point and the weight and dimensions of all of that. And then you're calculating an amount on the fly in the moment, right?
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of complexity in that, but I think if something like that was available as an option in Siteglide for agency partners to spin up, I can't see why that wouldn't be a benefit for everybody.
Yeah.
So the added complication we found on DJ's site was that most of these people who provide an API for shipping provide it very generously, but then it turns out that if you've got lots of products, what they end up doing is you kind of have to send an API call for each product, and they give you a price for each one, which quickly adds up, especially in like the US where shipping gets quite expensive. Whereas what we wanted to do was we've got lots of books, we want to put them in one box. So we did some Liquid where DJ provided the sizes of the boxes that client uses as a web app. And then we figured out how many books we could put in each box and did an API call per box to get the cheapest shipping rate. So it got very complicated for that reason. And if we could find a shipping API that did that across lots of different couriers and also could take like an array of products and figure out how, put them into a couple of boxes rather than ship them all individually, I think we would build an API integration for that straight away. It's just at this point we have to sort of pick out of what's the best out of a bunch with quite a lot of different limitations, which is the shipping API one we would build first. That's a difficult thing to decide. So that's something you guys can help us with, I guess. If everybody's shouted out, we want this one, we want easy ship, or there are lots available, that would really help us to bring that forward, I think.
Yeah, and that also was a super custom deployment, I would say, right? Because they have 10 different size boxes that they ship from, with 1 or 2 carriers, whereas I think most carriers today have like a flat rate option if you use this box, kind of thing. So if you had that kind of arrangement, just you were doing flat rate shipping with this size box, I don't think you would need a live rate server deployment necessarily, because you could just pad your pricing and that kind of thing, build it into the e-commerce experience and account for that flat rate, fee, and just use those boxes to ship your stuff. But that flat rate shipping was not an option for this client. They needed a custom solution, which is why Matt had to build, that complex kind of sort of algorithm to figure out what products were in the cart, and then what box those products would fit into, then pass that information for pricing, all live within, that in the checkout experience. And that's what made this particular project much more complex than I think it probably has to be for every scenario.
And at this point, DJ, would you recommend EasyShip to other people as a good API to use? Because I think
so. Yeah, I think EasyShip is a good solution. Sure.
We don't use EasyShip, do we? Use something else. Ships.
No, it
ShipStation.
No, it is. Well, ShipStation isn't ShipStation. ShipStation is like the shipping solution for printing the label and stuff like that. But no, it's Ship Engine.
Yeah,
that's right. Ship Engine is the API thing, but EasyShip also has a similar API solution to Ship Engine, right?
Yeah,
I think they're very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem, is picking one, isn't it? But yeah, if you have a recommendation based on your experience of having used them with the client for a long time now, you've used both on the same website at different times. So yeah, that would be interesting to hear your feedback.
Yeah, in terms of the API, integration, I think EasyShip and Ship Engine are very similar, but ShipStation is a sister product to Ship Engine, so there's tight integration there that makes that a good solution when you need to generate your own in-house label and things like that. Again, they're doing custom shipping with their own custom sized boxes, right? That's why this was more complex, because they couldn't just go and get flat rate boxes from a carrier and just call it done, and drop that box off and pay for the shipping label or whatever at that time. These guys were actually generating everything in-house to ship these products out. And that's what made it a little bit more unique, I would say. But I think it's a good solution. ShipStation and Ship Engine working together is good for them. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so yeah, we'll look again at the dimensions and weights, tasks, roadmap items, and also integrations as well. On the previous call, Nick mentioned that they'd just done an integration for one of the the main British shipping, the Royal Mail, who handle all parcels and deliveries generally. So they found that very easy because it was a really good API to work with. So it's a tricky one. The platform's flexible that you can do that yourself, but we also want to try and make sure that we offer some out of the box. It's just hard to know which ones and how to go about it. Yeah, a couple of others to mention, then I'll literally hand over to you guys if you have any more ideas or questions or feedback. Order status updates. So you can now change order status, but it's free text field, which can cause errors and issues. So that's going to be changed to a drop down option that the client can then edit in orders, but you'll also be able to manage those drop downs within the e-commerce settings area. Fairly simple, quick thing that we'll do pretty soon, I think, very soon. And then lastly, one that I know from a UX perspective would be really helpful is the list view in products and, to be honest, other areas, web apps, modules, being able to do bulk actions, so disable, enable, add to category, that kind of stuff, being able to manage things in bulk, hopefully saving the need for import export in some areas. But actually that leads on to the last one, which was the ability to import orders by CSV. You can currently export orders, you can't import, and this came up from the idea of migrating from other platforms. Some people will want to bring across their orders, so that's another thing that we can include. So yeah, that was the main list that we went through. I don't know if that gives any ideas, or if anybody had any on their list that you want to make sure we're aware of, or just challenges or anything like that really related to e-commerce. I appreciate it's been quite a long
I would
call
say to
anyway.
summarize, real quick, I would say to summarize is I like the ability of being able to do as much as possible on my own. Right? Yeah. So I think that was the great thing about BC, right? Anything that you needed, or the most popular things that you needed, all you had to do is add a couple of lines of code to output that functionality, style it as you wanted, and boom, it's there. Yeah. So I like that ability, but I also understand the Siteglide motto of just wanting to make it possible for anybody to build anything. And I know that that's been a difficult kind of balance to strike there, right? Like, what do we bake into the system versus what do we just allow or assume agency partners will build themselves? I would say these things that we're talking about, like I've said before, I think it's great to have the flexibility to build anything, but I also think there are standard things that would be nice to have baked in.
Couldn't agree more. Would you say that there's anything that is missing that we haven't mentioned? I mean, not necessarily now, but the coming week, the time to really try and we're trying to really zoom in on e-commerce at the moment and get it right if we can. So do let us know if there's anything that stands out.
Sure.
Yeah. Have a think and just drop us a message. It could either be in Discord, it can be in live chat, whatever, but we definitely want to hear about it. As you've seen, Matt's working away on the sort of output and making it easier to build using site builder and layouts and everything, and then on the Siteglide side, we're looking more at the core product features and roadmap and what we can be doing. So between the two, I think we're getting more hands-on experience with this. It's very hard sometimes when you're just building the product to appreciate what it's like at the rock face, doing the projects, hearing the client requirements. So we're trying to do a bit more on both sides, and obviously the link now of having Site Gurus and Siteglide working together is really helpful for that. So if we'll keep improving it as much as we can in terms of making it easier, like you said, DJ, actually being able to just do it. So live updates API, if you guys haven't used that, that's well worth having a look at as part of Site Builder. I think that really speeds things up and improves the UX, and we'll keep doing more of those kind of things. So yeah, it's been quite a long time. Anybody else really wanted to discuss anything e-commerce related? Very, very happy to help if we can. Okay, great. Well, yeah, there is the other recording. I can't think of anything that we haven't really mentioned. I think we've been through most of those things. But yeah, thank you very much once again.
I have a question for Matt, though.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Sure.
What's your dog's name?
Alfie was distracting me in the background.
What's your dog's name?
Oh, Alfie. Yeah.
Alfie.
Yeah. He's a bit of a cat. He likes to climb all over everything, which is why he photobombs.
A cat.
He's having a good scratch
Is
earlier,
that
I
a
think.
cat? What is that? Or is that a kangaroo?
No, it's a
Alfie.
dog who thinks he's a cat.
Great name. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, well, yeah, happy holidays, as Helen said. Hope you all have a nice night. It's coming up pretty soon. The year's flown by. But yeah, any questions? If we can help with anything, let us know. And otherwise, have a great bit of time off, and we'll speak soon.
Later.
Great.
Happy boxing.
Thanks, everyone.